The latest United Nations Development Programme or UNDP Human Index Development Report 2025 says that the pace of human development has slowed down to its lowest in 35 years. But India represents a silver lining. We have Dr. Angela Lusigi with us. She is the resident permanent representative of the UNDP to tell us more about it. Welcome to DD India. Dr. Lusigi, what can you tell us about the fact that the slowdown, can it still be ascribed to the pandemic years, because that did slow down economic development, but thereafter we had a lot of conflicts raging around the world. So how much of a blame should be apportioned to them?
So the Human Development Report actually says that the slowdown is not limited to only one section of the world. All regions are actually experiencing a deceleration. So if we look at what happened pre-2020, of course there was a slowdown and there's been a slow recovery. But in every region in the world, the last increase from the last report to this report has been the slowest. So it's not linked to only one region. It's global.
Mm-hmm. And how is India standing out then? Is it doing much better compared to its peers, or in South Asia, or in the global South, even emerging economies, or is it coming up to a sort of a level where it could in the coming years become a developed nation, which is what India is aspiring to be?
That's a very good question, because the real question that we were looking at in the report is what's happening to the track for us being able to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals by 2030. And we can see, because of the deceleration, we are not going to be living in a high human development world. So unless we can do something to accelerate progress and shift the trajectory, then it will not be achieved globally. However, the focus of the report, which is on people and opportunities in the age of AI, means that there are now opportunities to look at how we can use AI and technology to change this trajectory.
Mm-hmm. And is that happening in India?
India is one of the countries where we can say, and globally, when we asked people about what they know about AI, across the low and medium development countries like India, we found that a lot of people are already aware about AI. Only 18% said they were not aware. But then they were also very hopeful about the potential for AI to improve their lives. So in the case of India, we already have very strong digital public infrastructure. We already have, a lot of the underlying conditions which will make it possible. It's very useful to see how we can help to make the choices today that will make that possible, that AI will help us to advance human development.
Sounds great. Now, do you feel that because of these reasons, India is at somewhat of a cusp where there could be an aligning of forces, and India could sort of have a breakout and then get into the top 100 in a leapfrogging kind of a way within a matter of years, and certainly maybe even above top 100 when it comes to 2047, which is the year when we celebrate 100 years of our independence?
It's very important to look at the numbers and the trend. So we know that this year, India has achieved 0.685 in the level of human development. And we know that the cusp is 0.7 to achieve high human development. So we can see we are right at the corner. But let's see what has changed over the last 3 decades, which has brought us here. There have been significant public investments in health and education, which means that life expectancy has risen, and we are now at 72, which is the highest level, and which also means that we are recovering well from the COVID levels. But also what's happening in the space of education. We know that now a child born in India is likely to spend 12 years in school. And if you're 25 and over, then on average you've spent 7 years in school. But also when it comes to the income, there's been a significant increase in GNI per capita. So in 1990, we were looking at 2,000, and now it's looking at an average of 9,000. So we can see that there's been a lot of movement in this space. However, as the report says, not only is there a deceleration, there is a challenge when it comes to inequality. So globally, we're seeing that countries that are farther behind are growing slower. So there's a rise in inequality. And in the case of India, this is still a huge challenge. So while we have, on average, human development levels of 6.685%, if you look at the distribution across the population, and you take that into account, then it means that the level of human development is reduced to actually 4.75. So this means that when you look at the distribution of health and education and income outcomes across the population, and you don't just take the average and you look at the actual, then it means that your human development index score becomes almost 30% lower. So let me give you an example.
But in recent years,
Yes.
the Indian government and even state governments have taken a lot of initiatives when it comes to healthcare, particularly leveraging the strength of digitization as well. In that
Absolutely.
process, there's free health
Absolutely.
insurance as well now for
Yeah.
the elderly too. Do you think these things are not making that much of a difference?
It has changed, because in 1990, when we were looking at these same numbers, the Human Development Index due to inequality was 35%. So there has been some progress. So what we're saying is that we're not over yet, and we still need to pay attention to issues around inequality. For example, if you look at the difference between female and male income per capita, you will find that females earn 30% of the incomes of males. So these are some of the issues that if we address...
But isn't that common worldwide as well?
Well, the issue here is that, and many economists will tell you, there's something called a poverty elasticity of growth. So if you have lower inequality, then it means all the efforts that you're making in terms of growth will have a higher impact on poverty. So
Naturally.
as we continue all the efforts to grow the economy, if we address inequality, then we will have much, much better outcomes. But as you were saying, India has really invested a lot in reducing inequality. And the example I was giving about incomes for women and men, there's a lot that is going into trying to enhance women's labor force participation, for instance. And there are government programs that are looking into childcare, just to see how we can get more women in the workforce. And of course, I think the numbers are trending up, which is a good sign. So really, we would like to see more of that taking place. And UNDP is, of course, working in this area, trying to find the models that will be in place to ensure that we can have more women in the workforce, but also that the care economy is a good space for decent jobs.
So you mentioned quite a few areas where India is doing well and where it could do better, but are there areas, of course, where India is perhaps outpacing even the emerging economies, or there are areas which in which India is clearly lagging, which you haven't mentioned?
Well, one of the things I didn't mention was the fact that over the last 3 decades, India has actually been outpacing other countries in terms of progressing for human development. We know that in terms of multidimensional poverty, India has been at the forefront of lifting millions out of multidimensional poverty. Between 2015 and 2019, 2021, 135 billion people were lifted out of poverty. And that is clearly something to be celebrated. And we're looking at, and the way India has developed the digital public infrastructure is actually a lesson for the world. A lot of countries are coming to India to learn about the digital health systems that are now sitting on this digital public infrastructure. And there are other use cases also in agriculture and so on. So definitely, India has a lot of lessons for the world.
Okay, and is the differentiator also here because of the kind of polity that India has and the kind of leadership that India has?
Absolutely. Leadership plays a very, very important role at all levels. So we know that the states are also very interested in tracking their development. We know there's the SDG India Index that has been put forth by Niti Aayog with the support of the UN and others. And different states are really paying attention to areas where they need to develop. And so definitely leadership at all levels plays an important role, investment, and also partnership with the private sector.
We'll take a quick break at this point. We'll continue talking to Dr. Lusigi about what kind of role could AI play in the future of human development. Be back in just a bit.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India. In a world that never stops, where information shapes our reality, one app stands out, helps you stay ahead of time. Introducing the DD India app, your gateway to a world of news right at your fingertips. Your most trusted source of news goes global, goes digital. Explore a world of options, top stories, live updates, in-depth analysis, and more. Stay informed wherever you are. Real-time alerts keep you ahead of the curve always. The DD India app, connecting you to the world one story at a time. Download now and explore the world of knowledge, insights, and authentic information.
Welcome back. We're talking to Dr. Lusigi of the UNDP about the latest HRD report 2025. We are now going to talk about the possible impact that AI could have, perhaps this century's biggest disruptor, enabler, whatever you might call it. Some call it an atom bomb, some call it a revolution. But in terms of human development, what kind of difference do you see it making, not just in terms of the way we work, but the way we live?
So AI, and one of the things we did was to go out to ask people what they think about AI. And most of the people that were surveyed, including India was part of that survey, said that they believe that AI will play an important role in transforming their jobs and providing opportunities for the future. Of course, there was some concern, and there were some people who thought that maybe their jobs would be eliminated. So definitely there's a whole range of possibilities with AI, and a lot of focus has gone on the negative side and protection against that. But right now is a time to look at the opportunities that we have for AI to advance human development. And to do that, it's important to make the right investment and the right choices to guide how AI will be able to advance human development. So the report comes up with three areas that are very, very important, because it mentions the fact that AI should be seen as being there to augment human capabilities. So we want to create a space where humans can collaborate with AI. And this is there are examples also from the India space where, in the agriculture space, you're able to use AI to analyze huge data sets from various different sources to be able to guide decision makers and also farmers on the best ways to do climate resilient agriculture. So definitely that's an example of how AI can augment human capabilities. Mm-hmm. Now, the second way we really need to see AI is how can we use AI to increase innovation and science in things that matter. So, for example, how can we use AI to come up and address complex challenges that have a societal reward, but as well as have a private benefit? So how do you incentivize, for example, that AI is used to solve problems around health, for instance, and discovering and focusing on those kinds of innovation. But the third area, which is also very important, which India is already leading really, is how do we develop the capabilities for the population and for all of us to be able to effectively use AI. So whether
that's through your own indigenous large language model.
Exactly. It also starts from the education.
Which is already on.
Absolutely.
We have an AI mission here in India.
Yes, this is exactly because the AI mission and also what we're doing through and what the government is doing through education is to create the space for us to be able to use AI throughout our life cycle, whether you're a child, whether you're working, whether you're an older person. We need really to be able to interact with AI and really invest in the capabilities that matter.
Mm-hmm. And the kind of opinion that has been formulated, the world does not seem to be on one page on AI, how to, one would say regulate it or to mold it. Mm-hmm. There's a clear divide. Mm-hmm. Now, where does the UNDP lie in terms of the kind of approach one should be taking to AI, especially in the coming years?
So this is very much why we're looking at this report, because we believe that AI creates opportunities for us to be able to advance human development, but we have to guide the direction that it takes. And which is why...
Because in Munich, J.D. Vance said one thing and the others, mostly in Europe, said another.
Well, one of the things I really want to emphasize the fact that in India, for instance, out of the 10 top countries in the AI Global Index, for countries that are implementing, countries that are innovating, it's the only medium income country that's in that list. So there is a lot of space and a lot of guidance that we're seeing here in India, where the government is committed, but also the private sector and the educational systems are committed. There's a high level of AI skills in this economy. So it's definitely an opportunity for harnessing AI for human development.
And would you say that India is conscious of that and acting accordingly as well?
Absolutely. You've mentioned the AI mission. We've also working with some states like Telangana who are actually looking to see how can we use AI, not just to build AI capabilities, but how can we use AI to enhance the way we do skilling so that we are creating a workforce for the future.
Mm-hmm. And does that need to be rejigged in a way so that it's more adept to leveraging AI?
Skilling and AI, there's definitely room to grow. And that's why the research is taking place so that we can have the policy recommendations and the examples that we'll be able to share on how best to do that.
Mm-hmm. And AI is known to show cultural bias as well, where high HDI, top level HDI countries are concerned. And how can India ensure that that does not be a downside for, the most populous nation in the world?
Well, I think India is very well positioned to take advantage of the AI space, not just because of the guidance from the government, but also the fact that there is such a pool of talent. If we look at the youth and the level of education and the public investment that is going into having more youth and even women skilled in STEM, and math, there is definitely an opportunity for this country to harness AI for human development.
Now, which way do you see this going in terms of how AI is taken forward in the world? Because again, as we spoke about the difference of opinion and everybody's not on one page. So do you feel that this is a situation that is unsustainable? Because then you have a set of people always trying to play catch up with the other, outpace the other person, and that race never ends. It's like another arms race.
Well, I think when it comes to AI, this is actually something that it could actually be more democratizing across the world, because nobody has the access is much easier, because it takes data, which we're all generating all the time, and then it also takes electricity and computing power. So if you're in a country like India, and you're in other countries in the world as well, where you're able to harness your own data. So really, it's a question of how can we create systems where we're able to harness and use our own data? And like I said, also, how do you push and use AI for the science and innovation in areas that matter to the country? Mm-hmm. So it's really, taking leadership and taking ownership of the direction of AI. So making sure that it can augment what we do as humans. Again, very much, there's a room for policy and decision makers to guide in that area. But there's also a room for innovators. And we know there's a lot of young innovators and MSMEs who are really entering into this space. So again, with a computer, with access to data, you're able to actually, design some of these things. So I really think the focus is on the capability. How can we democratize access to the capability to participate in the process and to be able to use AI?
Okay. And since you mentioned the kind of energy that AI needs, in any case, India is a fast growing country. It's the fastest growing economy in the world in terms of large nations. The kind of choices that is making in terms of its energy mix, do you feel that that is the right path?
I think India is at the crossroads now and planning very carefully for the future. Because if we look at a world where you have the youngest population and you're looking at, the needs for the entire population, India has a challenge of being able to achieve that. We know that India has already committed to net zero by 2070. So there's definitely a path. And they're looking at various options, the green hydrogen mission, and very clear focus on renewables as well. So it's definitely an energy mix, and it's something that the UN is very, very carefully supporting in terms of climate adaptation and mitigation, but always with the focus on development.
Because it again gets related to the kind of disaster mitigation and combat efforts that you put together. And India again has taken global initiatives at that level as well on that account. So do you feel that it is all coming together quite nicely, or do you feel there are still gaps that needed to be filled?
I think that at the institutional level, there's a lot of guidance and commitment on the way forward. And there's a lot of discussions currently being led by NITI Aayog and the Ministry of Environment that we're very much supporting. So we're fully behind the government's commitment to advance the goals for net zero.
India has put together a digital infrastructure which is perhaps the envy of the world in large parts, and a lot of countries are also reaching out to India to understand how it's been done and how could it be adapted. Sri Lanka is one example recently. Do you feel that that is something, again, which will act as a force multiplier, not just for India, but as India says, for the entire global south, and all that we talk about, Mahasagar vision and everything will come into play there as well?
Actually, the digital public infrastructure is something that was really at the front and center of the G20 that India hosted. And they were able to really showcase how they built the India stack, and looking at not just the unique IDs, looking at the digital payments, but also data governance. And that really has been the bedrock for some of the new digital innovations and the whole push around health systems. And we recently saw the launch of the UN platform, which is really advancing access to maternal care and child health. And this is an example also of something that is helping to reduce inequality. But this is an example that is already catching fire. Indonesia has learned from the India case and has taken, and India was very supportive of that and was able to use the open platforms to be able to support that. And there are other countries that are also learning from India. So there's a lot that India is already doing that other countries are already very much benefiting from.
Since the mention of inequality came, I just want to ask you about, there is the overall inequality, and then there's a regional inequality as well. There are parts of the country developing faster and there are parts that are slower. What kind of remedy could there be for that?
Well, one of the things I mentioned was the SDG India Index, which is a very critical infrastructure for states to be able to compare themselves against each other. But because we talk about human development as being something that's beyond income, we also look at what are the advances when it comes to health, when it comes to education, when it comes to gender inequality. So there are various aspects where different states are doing better than others, and they're able to learn from each other. But the most important thing is that they have a plan and they're able to address the specific indicators that are lagging behind. And these are always updated so that they're able to measure progress.
Thank you, Dr. Lusigi, for your views on this report, and all the best in terms of charting the way forward as well, working with your partners.
Thank you very much.